Hey guys, it's Lefty, and today I want to talk with you about something that a topic that I tried to broach on PKA, and we kind of covered it a little bit. Woody gave his input, and it was actually I believe it was a comedian's response, or was it a comedian? I believe, but it was a response of, it was a joking response, but also apt response to the question posed, and but the conversation moved on from there, and I didn't want to grind everything to a halt and try to reset or be like, no, I want to know this, and it never really got to get covered, and it's something I'm honestly curious about. That it's something I struggle with internally, and where I try to come up with answers, and I just don't. I don't know. I'm at a loss. I can't figure it out. And the topic was we were talking about. The subject of prejudice was up. For whatever reason, I forget the specifics. And I had been thinking earlier in the week, and I thought it a perfect time, to wonder how exactly do we as a society, America, the world, whatever, how do we as a society get to a place where racism and just general bigotry and prejudice aren't even possible? That they are not assumed. They are not assumed to be in evidence anymore. That it is our society is such, not right now, but how do we get to a place where our society is such that the idea of somebody being prejudiced, of some result, right? This was born mainly from something I saw on Reddit, where somebody had put together a hodgepodge of all their favorite, I believe it was Marvel comic book characters, and they were all black. They're all the black characters on Marvel's superhero roster. And somebody was asking, they said, well, wait, why are your favorite characters all black? And then there was a great response about how you learn to identify with, people that are similar to you or that remind you of you and your whatever your plight, your struggles, just your living situation. You identify with them, and they just happen to be your favorite. It's not necessarily prejudice. But again, it was a discussion about that, and somebody said, well, hey, that's kind of prejudicial, and the same thing goes the other way with you have too many white workers, or you don't hire enough homosexuals, or something, right? Prejudice in our society now is really, really easily introduced into evidence, we'll say, to use the courtroom metaphor. But how do we get to a place where it's not? How do we get to a place where, oh, okay, well, yeah, you're a right, you're a diner in Alabama. Let's go with the most popular motif. You're a diner in Alabama, and you have all white workers and all white patrons. But that's just a roll of the dice. Sometimes that's going to happen. And when we see that, when somebody walks in and sees that, they don't think, oh, crap, well, that's racist. They just think, oh, well, here's a bunch of white people. And it's the same thing when all your favorite superhero characters are black. You say, oh, man, those are great superheroes. They do great things. It isn't, people's minds don't immediately jump to, oh, well, there's some prejudice involved here. Either way, racial, sexual, gender specific, whatever. How do we get to a place where we do that? Because how do we get to a place, I'm thinking, and I honestly can't come up with an answer. How do we get to a place where something like affirmative action really isn't needed? I know racist deniers, a lot of whom tend to just be secretly prejudicial, but people that try to deny racism and say affirmative action isn't needed anymore because society isn't racist, and it's like, well, maybe not, but it certainly isn't racist or prejudicial, our society, anymore. So to say, well, if it's not needed, if we're not racist, well, affirmative action isn't needed, and all those things. And affirmative action is in itself prejudicial. It just is. You have to accept that, because it's designed to be the counterbalance to one-way prejudice. It's the opposite prejudice to try to counterbalance it. But how do we get to a point where we don't need to counterbalance, because the pendulum isn't swinging one way or the other? And I thought about it. I don't know. I think that's what we all. That is idea. That is a utopic. Utopic, is that a word? I don't know. From Entourage. I wonder if that guy actually trademarked it. Even though that is a utopian ideal, I think that's something we all strive for in the idea of as society moves forward. But are we actually making strides towards that? And how do we do it? Is it educational? Is it just, do you will affirmative action, will being the counterbalance to momentum going this way and countering it this way? Will they eventually at some point just cancel out and go away of their own volition? I don't know. It's a really interesting topic, and I want to get your guys' input on it, because there's a lot of smart people out there who probably have some really good ideas. Is it an educational thing? Do we teach? Do we have to say, on a federal level, I'm speaking here about America, the world, you can just apply this to the world as well. But do we say blanketly, in a blanket statement, all right, now everybody everywhere is always going to be educated with the idea that we're all the same, regardless of race, creed, gender, all those things, we are all the same, right? The idea, and I recorded a video about this, but I never really got the balls, I'll say, to render it out and upload it, because, when is Michael Sam being gay not a story? How do we get to a point where Michael Sam, the NFL prospect out of Mizzou, defensive lineman, going to be the first openly gay NFL prospect, first openly gay NFL rookie, first openly gay active NFL player, which is the biggest sport in America for those of you that don't know. And Ellen Page coming out as homosexual at an LGBT, I think that is, an LGBT event. When are those not news? When are those events in and of themselves, LGBT, when are they truly not necessary? And when will they truly go away? And how do we get there? Because when there's no need for them anymore, I would say we've arrived at that point. But certainly we're not there now. And the idea of prejudice to counter prejudice, well, that's a discussion unto itself. But when we think of the lack of prejudice, when we think of a society in which people are not inherently prejudicial to one another, how do we go about doing that? Let me know what you think. And also, here's something else to think about. And this is where I'm coming from. Lack of prejudice is great. Right? When you deny somebody a service or a good or access to something because of something inherently outside of their control, that specific person's control, race, gender, color, whatever, when you deny them something because of that, or you divide them along those lines, that to me is backwards and just morally wrong. However, at some point, you have to say that it's not okay to be prejudiced. Not only is it not okay to act on your prejudices, it's not okay to be prejudiced in here. And while, again, I think prejudice and bigotry is backwards and wrong, the right to be prejudiced and the right to be bigoted on the inside is something that's very fundamental to who we are. As humans, we are prejudiced beings. That's how we go about our life. We are incapable of achieving that meta sense. We can't observe everything. 99% of our reasoning is inductive, not deductive. It's inductive. It's based on things we see, but we can't observe everything. And what we observe isn't representative of the whole. But we can't do any better than that. That's what we got. That's all we got to do. And because of that, we are making prejudiced reasons. Or we are prone to prejudice reasoning, and that's just how we operate as human beings. So to say that we should strive to completely strip prejudice from society, in some ways actually saying that we should strip humanity, one single solitary thing that it means to be human. And as tough as it might be to say, removing prejudice might be removing a piece of humanity, of what it is to be human, in order to say, yes, you can do this inside your own mind and be whatever you want to be, but you can't do this. And I think on some level, we got to account for that, right? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Anyway, guys, that's my time. I got to get out of here. Thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to drop a like on this video. If you did enjoy, I'm out. Peace.